felicitous morning to one and all present here. I am Abhishek Shrivastava and today I am going to speak on a very extremely sensitive topic, that is discrimination faced by non-binary gender identities. I need to reiterate this first of all, that sex and gender are two different things. Whereas sex is a biological construct, gender is a social construct. So gender does not include only the binary concepts, it also includes non-binary. What is non-binary? So non-binary is an umbrella term for people who don't identify themselves into the binaries of male or female, and this identification itself results in their oppression, violence, abuse by the peers, by their family, by society and by the state, and that is my problem. So my problem statement reads is that these non-binary people, because of their identification, they are denied to visibility, which leads to their spiral of exclusion and marginalization. Second, they lack recognition in census and other government surveys like NFHS, UNDISE or PLFS. In census 2011, government boasted of including others category, but likewise they included the binaries of male and female. Why don't we expect to include all the non-binary identities instead of just concluding them into the others category? Third point, that they are often bullied at educational institutions and workplace, which was partially reflected in the census data, which I am showing in the next slide. See, here in the census, we can see that the literate population of the other gender is clearly highlighted. It's 56.1%. Just more than half of the other gender people are literate. And I need to reiterate this, that they are literate, not educated. In the workplace share, there are only, can you please switch off? In workplace share, 34% of the people in other gender are employed, which again shows the dismal level of employment level amongst the other gender people. And if we go by the other point, that they have to face very high prevalence of mental health problems. Now mental health problems can be ranging from simple short period of anxiety to long duration of depression. So they really face these mental health problems, psychiatric disorders, which is reflected in this study which was published in BMC Psychiatry of Journal, which shows that amongst the community of Kothi and Hijra. Now Kothi is a non-binary community in Karnataka, and Hijra is a umbrella term in the Indian subcontinent which reflects the transgenders. So in Kothi community, as we can see here, that 55.7% of the people, they feel overall anxiety. 66.5% people, they suffer from depression. As well as in Hijra, they can say there are so much people who face anxiety and depression. Also corroborates this study is a qualitative study which showed that queer people experience thoughts of depression, suicidal tendencies and anxiety much more than ordinary cis people. My next point would be that pathologization of non-binary identities takes place. Now what does this pathologization mean? So till recent, the medical textbooks of India, which produce doctors through MBBS or any other medical curriculum, they include that non-binary identities are a disease. So you can gauge the extent that how the medical practitioners of India would be treating as the non-binary identities into a disease and not something else. And there is a serious lack of awareness amongst people about these identities, which misgenders them, which dead names them, and that leads to plethora of mental health problems. Now coming to the next slide, which shows that why it merits government attention, why it is very urgent for the government to act on this. So as I have shown with the help of census data, that there are so many things like education, health, employment, whose levels are very low for these people. So if we increase those things, obviously it would translate into the betterment of India in Human Development Index, which India seriously wants to do so. Second, it would give a push to entrepreneurial schemes like Startup India, Make in India. How? Because when people would be feeling secure, they would be feeling much more to innovate for the country, for their betterment. So it would ultimately push these schemes up. It will be also consistent with UN Declaration of Human Rights 1948. Also, it will, if we don't, or if the government does not pay attention, it will result into ignorance of high talent pool, which is corroborated by this evidence study by World Bank in 2016, which pegged loss of India's GDP at least $32 billion, which shows that if we don't pay attention here, then how much it can lose an economic front. And in another study, I would like to quote Chaitali Mandal, who is a professor at International Institute of Population Sciences, who says that as the other gender population is also growing in the country, the creation of more employment for transgender and non-binary identities is going to lead more economic growth and economic development. So this will lead to much more economic prosperity for the nation India is. Now at my next slide, I would like to show you that there is a personal survey which I have done here at the university level only. I have asked people to volunteer and come out with their gender identities without their name being disclosed. So what I found might be very startling for all of us, that out of 140 responses, I found that 12% of the people here identify themselves as non-binary. Now that translates to almost 17 people out of 140, which clearly shows us that in this society, we are not, or in this society, not only male and female exist, but there is much more than that. Non-binary identities do exist, and government and state, along with the society, needs to do much for them. Thank you.